You co-founded Grain Surfboards. What was the inspiration? How did you get Grain off the ground?
The inspiration for Grain Surfboards was that we didn't have any foam, really. I mean, technically, we just didn't have any foam. So we wanted to build boards, didn't have any foam, plenty of wood around, knew how to work with wood, boat building techniques. And that was it, really. But, it doesn't take an inspiration, really, to come up with making surfboards out of wood, because they've been doing it for thousands of years, so, or hundreds of years anyway, 1,500 years or 1,000 years. So yeah, that was necessity or lack of foam.
Why hollow instead of solid or chambered?
Just because of the lightness, mostly weight, and boats are hollow.
So that was your background, boats?
Boat building, but not as much boat building as my boat building experience is mostly trying to keep the boat I'm on afloat. So it wasn't really as much boat building as just sort of messing about in boats.
Okay. All right, tell us a bit more about the Blundell strip and feather method.
The strip and feather method is the product of a lot of sort of agonizing over a better way to do it. And so essentially what the real sort of nugget, the kernel of what I think is innovative about it is that there is a joint, a feather joint. And the strips aren't all that, the strip part of strip and feather isn't really all that original, because kayaks are made with strips and canoes are made with strips and that kind of thing. But it's not a bead and cove method, but that's not really, it doesn't depend on being, so it has nothing to do with, I've heard it called the bead and cove method, and the bead and cove part of it is really the least interesting thing about it, if you ask me. The most interesting thing about this method is the joint between the top panel and the rails, and the way that joint, the way that it works, it's hard to explain, but basically you've got a joint that is bringing into consideration three variables in dimension at once. So if you take a pile of lumber, it's a pile of square pieces of wood. There's not a curved line in a pile of lumber. You look at a surfboard, it's nothing but curves. There's not a straight line on a surfboard. And so the challenge is really to go from these things that are angular, straight, everything's 90 degrees, into this graceful, sort of fluidly curved, functional thing. And that's what this joint, this feather joint, does. It allows for three curves, X, Y, and Z. You've got X, Y, Z dimensions. All three of them are changing independently. And this feather joint allows for, the curve of the rocker, the thickness of the board, the profile, the outline. It incorporates all the different dimensions as they shift over the length of the board. And the way that it does that is it's this sort of thing. The joint lands wherever it wants to, and it stops where it needs to, and then it's locked in place with glue. And that's sort of the secret of the strip and feather method. And the other thing that's great about it is that it's very sort of open to variance. So you can use all kinds of different shaped stock material, whether it's wedges or, it doesn't even have to be perfectly milled. It just has to be, basically the shape of the board. Or doesn't take any, it doesn't require, we've done it clamp free, we've done it, almost power tool free, and you can do it with very little glue, and so that's what I love about it.